and gentlemen, this is Big Ray's Wrestling Show. I'm the Mark of the Master, the Man of the Plan. Big Ray here to stay to talk about a very interesting topic today. Ladies and gentlemen, I am joined here with my good buddy, Andre CORBEIL from Canada. You know me, I'm Big Ray. I'm here from New York City. I'm here in the locker room, ladies and gentlemen, in an undisclosed location. We're going to talk about factions. Now, factions are a very big part. Now, Andre, I'm going to ask you a question. When you hear about a faction like, let's say, the Fabulous Freebirds, who would you correlate them with?
The Von Erichs. Probably the Four Horsemen the most.
But I agree with you. The Von Erichs. If you think about DX, maybe you think about the Nation of Domination, so on and so forth. Now, right now we have a faction in Impact Wrestling, TNA, and this is the Aces and Eights. And Sting, obviously, he can't get a championship or a title shot. Sting now is looking to put together his own faction. So why don't you talk about, Andre, because we've been talking about this over the last week or so, who we think will be part of the Main Event Mafia. Why don't you talk about that, Andre? Why don't you enlighten us and tell us who you think should be part of the Main Event Mafia? But before that, Andre, why don't we go over some of the old members and their effect in TNA wrestling?
Five-time WCW World Heavyweight Champion, none other than Booker T. Now you roll on with a member, my friend.
All right, so then we have Booker T, and obviously we have the Olympic hero, Kurt Angle.
Mm-hmm. Now we're going to roll on with somebody that was trying to get into the faction. I believe he was in for a little while, none other than Matt Morgan. I do believe he got kicked out, though. He didn't make the cut in the end, but I digress on that.
Let's not forget Big Papa Pump, Scott Steiner.
Will we see him? Lord knows. I'm not too sure, my friend. I'm not too sure. I'd like.
Well, really quickly, Andre. Who do you think? All right, right now we have Sting, and Sting is in a place where, obviously, like I said, he can't go for a World Heavyweight Championship shot. So right now, Sting, his main objective is to destroy the Aces and Eights. So now, if you put your dream team together, if you put your, I see a couple of pictures behind you. Who do you have behind you there?
Well, we got our Olympic gold medalist, the former godfather of the original crew, the Main Event Mafia. I don't have Sting up there because it was given from the start. Now I'm going to roll over to my shoulder here. Like I mentioned a minute or two ago, Matt Morgan. My spidey sense is tingling, Ray. It really is. I feel this man's been disgruntled with TNA long enough. He's had his issues with Hulk Hogan. He's big, mean, bad, and ready to kick some So I think he's not fully associated and on TNA side, so I think he fits in perfectly in this new Main Event Mafia crew. Now, behind me here, badass, Samoa Joe. If you want credibility in your faction, Samoa Joe on the TNA roster, he's one of the most badass, credible guys anywhere. You look on the road as they're touring, he's getting these pops. Joe's gonna kill you chant is still living well, it's still alive. So credibility, yeah, we're rolling on here. This guy's an up-and-comer. He's on what I like to say, fire. None other than the British sensation, Magnus. I really expect him to do well in the Bound for Glory series. And I think he's popular enough, and he's been tightly knit enough with Sting prior to all of the things that happened before Sting losing at the pay-per-view. So I think he's coming in. And, yeah, I'm going to leave some of the video for you, my friend. Those are where I'm at right now.
Well, I'm interested to see that. Actually, I don't see AJ Styles anywhere behind you. Now, I know AJ Styles is also extremely disgruntled. I know he's talking about it's all about the money now. It's all about him. But isn't the Mafia about money?
Well, the Mafia about togetherness and family. AJ's a lone wolf, and he's not going to have any of that. I really don't pencil him into this roster. It doesn't seem realistic. I see him as the lone wolf. And, yeah, I really don't see AJ Styles becoming a member of the Main Event Mafia, although there's a lot of people out there that actually do think AJ Styles, the phenomenal one, will be a main event Mafia member, but my mind tells me no. My spidey sense says no, Ray.
Okay, so before we dissect your four choices here, I wanted to go over a couple of guys that I thought might make an interesting part of the main event Mafia. Now, one guy who, again, he's kind of a loner. He kind of shoots for himself. I think would be a phenomenal addition to the main event Mafia, and that would be Bobby Roode. What do you think about that?
Well, first of all, you're talking to a guy that has maple syrup in his fridge and lumberjacks and curlers for neighbors and all of that kind of stuff. Being a proud Canadian and a guy that's from Ontario, the same province that Bobby Roode hails from, I'd love to see Bobby Roode as a part of the faction. He's credible. He's probably one of the most complete all-around wrestlers in the TNA roster, on the TNA roster. Total package, good on the mic. One of the best heels I think TNA's ever had when he had his TNA World Heavyweight Championship run. I really, really loved him. But, again, my spidey sense does not see the it factor of professional wrestling in this faction, although I'm not saying it's a no-show or whatever. This is a prediction and analysis video, but I really don't see him factoring into this faction, Ray.
All right, well, I have another guy in mind, and this guy I think is probably one of the best, if not the best, in-ring workers. He's charismatic. This guy was a TNA World Heavyweight Champion. I'm talking about Mr. Austin Aries.
Austin Aries. I did my initial triangling what makes sense, what doesn't make sense. Doing my initial analysis, he was one of the first people that came to mind because, let's face it, I don't know if it was a work or not, everything progressing beyond what happened between him and Christy Hemme, that incident. But he's been playing lately the role as a disgruntled member of the TNA roster. He doesn't look very happy, and I think it's a work. A lot of people were making rumors up and making a little bit of noise saying that, oh, is there a possibility of him going elsewhere? I digress on that, but if it's a work, Austin Aries is playing a little bit of the disgruntled TNA worker. So he made my, what you guys call their, in the States, wild card list. The wild card spot. Austin Aries is my wild card choice.
Okay, now, hold on. We're going to stop real quick. Just keep going. Now, do you see maybe perhaps an X Division representative of the main event Mafia possibly?
No, I really don't see it. Again, other than Wes Briscoe and Garrett Bischoff, who are a little heavier than your traditional X Division competitors, I really don't see them needing an X Division member, and TNA's having enough trouble keeping the X Division primed and full, the cupboard's full, so to speak. So, no, I don't think so, Ray. I don't think they're going to need an X Division member, and I think that the X Division is a whole entire entity within itself. And let's face it, it always has since the inception of the company. It's always been its own thing. They've never really intermingled or intertwined a lot of the X Division storyline, progression, and all of that stuff within the confines of the middleweight division and the heavyweight division. What do you think in that regard? Do you agree with me, Ray?
No, I actually totally agree. I just thought, in every faction, I think you always need that little guy. Like, you look at the NWO. Yeah, you look at the NWO, they had X-Pac and so on and so forth. Listen, this is all about our opinions. Now, obviously, this is more or less a prediction show. And what I want from the fans here at RodeWrestling.com, I want them to get here. I want them to leave a comment below. I want you guys to leave a comment below. I want you to give us a list of who you think should be a part of the main event Mafia. I mean, if you want to think out of the box, I want to hear names like Goldberg. I want to hear names like, well, I was going to say RVD, but eventually obviously RVD signed with the WWE. But who you think would be a fantastic main event Mafia? Now, Andre, let's dissect the guys that you have here. Let's start off from, I guess you would say, your right to my left or whatever. We're going to start with Kurt Angle. Let's break down Kurt Angle as a member of the main event Mafia. Go.
Credibility. Everybody, it was probably the easiest pick for everybody trying to pick and wonder prior to the unveiling last Thursday on Impact. So I think it was good that they unveiled him first. I'm not sure who's going to come next. I think it'll either be Matt Morgan or possibly Joe. Joe's not doing much right now other than competing in the series and whatnot. I also thought a lot pertaining to Crimson and Abyss. Now, these are two other people. I'm not going to say that Abyss is disgruntled with TNA, but he's kind of in the abyss, in the deep. He's not really apparent. He's not really involved in the show. He pops in and out, in and out. It's not like he's 100% on TNA's side either. And with the recent progression, the return of Crimson, and how he got beat by Joseph Park, yeah, I think that adds on to his little anger, issues with TNA, and wanting to stand up and join a counter faction that's not a TNA-driven, TNA-based faction. So Crimson came to mind alongside Abyss, right?
Well, Abyss is really interesting. I mean, every mafia does need a good lawyer, if you know what I mean. But let's jump over to Magnus. And I'm going to actually give my opinion of Magnus. Now, I personally, if you go back to watch my old videos, I really, really like Magnus. I think Magnus has a fantastic look. I think he's extremely good in the ring. I think he cuts excellent promos. And I think Magnus is on the cusp of being a superstar. Now, whenever you have somebody, let's go back to the WWE. When they were trying to make a star out of Randy Orton, what did they do? They put him in a faction with Triple H, with Ric Flair, and Batista. They were able to make him a star by putting him with stars. I think this would be an excellent chance to take this fantastic worker, this great talent for TNA, and just put him with these phenomenal workers and just continue to build his character. I actually see Magnus, and again, this is my opinion. I'd like to know what you guys think, and I would like to know what you think, Andre. I think Magnus, if the cards are played correctly, can one day be the TNA World Heavyweight Champion. What do you think, man?
Absolutely agree with you. I actually think that this year's Bound for Glory, I don't think Magnus is going to win it, but I really do see him finishing in the top 4 slot, somewhere within that bracket, 2, 3, 4. That's another video, though. So, yeah, Magnus has all the tools. Some would say he's an it factor, a total package. He does have that look. He's young. He's charismatic. He's pretty good on the mic. He's a good mic hand. And I really liked seeing the Texas Cloverleaf from a Brit. I really liked seeing that on Thursday, so big up Magnus. I hope you are a member of the Main Event Mafia. You're one of my welcomed members from the TNA roster. And, yeah, comment below, people. Ray and I are very interested in hearing what you guys have to say, because we're all in this for one thing, wrestling, and we want to hear your opinions, everybody.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, I want to hear your opinion on this third member that basically you've chosen in the Samoa Joe. I just break down Samoa Joe. Tell me what you think about this competitor and where you think his place would be in the Main Event Mafia.
Well, let's face it. Pertaining to the Aces and Eights, they've been a real big thorn in the side of Joe, and Joe's a big man. Joe's going to kill you. You don't want to tick him off, so to speak, and I think the Aces and Eights have done a phenomenal job at rubbing Joe the wrong way, and this is one of the main reasons why I think he's destined to be a member of the Main Event Mafia. I really hope so. I like Joe, and for a big man, he's very, very Bam Bam Bigelow-ish like. Maybe even a little bit better, remains to be seen. Joe hasn't had his whole career yet. I digress on that. Bam Bam was good, though. When it came to people that aren't in TNA, because let's face it, Ray, when Sting was doing his initial promo announcing that he was going to reach out and maybe bring a family back, because the Aces and Eights were like family, and he was going to, when he announced the formation or the reformation of the new Main Event Mafia, he also mentioned that nobody from the TNA roster came down to help him when he was in dire straits, in dire need at the pay-per-view, at the hands of the Aces and Eights. So this puts a little bit of a twist, a little bit of a stick in the spoke of the wheel, so to speak. So I was thinking guys that aren't in TNA who could possibly come in. Like you had mentioned, Scott Steiner maybe, but he has, I believe it's existing. It's a court case against Hulk Hogan on the outside of the wrestling world kind of thing. I don't want to go into that.
Right.
So I don't think Steiner's going to be a part, even though he's a cog in the initial original faction. And I'd love to see the big bad booty daddy back in TNA. Let me tell you something. I love Scotty Steiner, no matter how old he is. But Chris Masters was a name that came up in my mind. He worked for TNA's sister company over in India called Ring King Wrestling for quite some time. And when the Aces and Eights started, he was one of my my predictions to be an Aces and Eights member. Figured once he was done, and they were done shop at Ring King, that TNA was going to bring him in, being a parent company to the sister company, and they'd utilize a star of his power. And especially after him saving his mother from that burning house fire, getting the TMZ exposure, the limelight and everything, it might be a good thing utilizing Chris Masters on the TNA roster. Let's face it, he's Batista-ish, at least in appearance and stuff like that. And I doubt that Batista is coming in.
All right, well, now, speaking about people that can potentially come in, and before we jump into your final selection, which is Matt Morgan, I can see him over your left-hand shoulder, my right, what about somebody like Goldberg? I mean, listen. Before I know.
No. That was a I wish. That was an I
wish. Okay, well, this is my opinion really quickly. I mean, Bill Goldberg not only would bring a bona fide megastar, not a superstar, a megastar into the company.
Media frenzy, a whole bucket load of things.
But what the hell is he doing now?
Well, the last I heard, which was a couple years ago, he ended up going over to Japan. He was in talks with TNA. He gave them a ballpark figure, but it never materialized. I watched an overview pertaining to that, where he said he was willing to come to TNA, and he thinks that he would have brought in a lot of his former WCW fan base and part of the WWE fan base along with him. And that remains to be seen, Ray, but I don't think it's an unreasonable statement. I really don't. This man has star power.
Well, he does.
Let's face it, how long has he been out of the game? And we're still hearing Goldberg chants whenever a certain wrestler is wrestling in the ring for a different company.
That's right, man. Anyway, but now, all right. So
I'm just thinking of payback.
I don't even want to get into that with the whole paper mache. Freaking what was that? The ambulance and
the wham ambulance.
That was a hot mess. Actually, I thought it was actually a pretty good pay per view until the last match. But anyway, that's WWE. We're talking about TNA. Now, is there anyone else before we get into Matt Morgan who you think would be an interesting entry, maybe on the independent circuit? Maybe we can ask our fans here at WrestleWrestling.com. Who do you guys think would be great? Anybody on the indies? Anybody wrestling that maybe had just been released by WWE? I mean,
it definitely ain't Booker T, sucker!
Well, obviously not. I mean, I can think of a plethora of guys. I mean, is there anyone that could stick out to you right now that maybe that's wrestling in an independent circuits that would be a really good fit for the main event Mafia?
Well, there's definitely one person that is kind of missing in action at the other company, and I hope he has nothing to do with TNA. I hope he doesn't surface. I hope Santino Marella stays as far away from TNA as possible. I know he has amateur wrestling and Roman Greco wrestling background coming in, but it's just one of those things. Once you kill a character to a certain degree, there's no coming back. Let's look at Chavo Guerrero. Great wrestler, but the fans refuse to accept him because of what happened with a little leprechaun there, laddie.
Well, now, I'm going to get into Matt Morgan now, and I'm going to give my opinion. I want to hear what you think. Matt Morgan, now, I think every faction needs an enforcer.
A big man.
The Four Horsemen had Arn Anderson. I mean, DX really didn't have an enforcer. More or less, maybe you could say Triple H was their enforcer, was their big badass guy. If you look at, and I mentioned the Nation of Domination, they had Mark Henry, and we go on and on. I mean, you look at the Fabulous Freebirds, Bam Bam Terry Gordy, that was their big tough guy. So every faction, pretty much in professional wrestling, has their big go-to man, the guy that's going to come out and just take out 3 or 4 guys at one time if you need him to. And I think Matt Morgan is that man. Now, we talk about good on the mic. I think he's improved vastly. We talk about size. We talk about look. We talk about potential. Matt Morgan is still a very young guy, and he's a seasoned veteran. He has the combination of being a young guy and a seasoned veteran. I mean, this guy has all the tools to be a major part of the main event Mafia. What's your opinion, Andre?
Well, let me tell you something, Terry. It was a big mistake overlooking the blueprint. Now this robe is mine, and I'm going to create big moments. I'm going to create memorable moments.
And let's face it, that's one of the main reasons why initially I thought Matt Morgan was a shoo-in for this faction. He does not like the way he's been treated by Hulk Hogan, and he's got every reason to join the main event Mafia. Let's go backwards a little bit here. Let's roll on back to when Sting was leaving, all dejected. He was leaving the Impact Zone. I think it was like a month ago or whatever. And Matt Morgan was sitting there as Sting was walking out with his luggage or whatever, and he's saying,
"Another Hogan mistake. Another Hogan mistake."
So was that TNA hinting that there's going to be that there is a little bit of connection, that there is a little bit of camaraderie between Stinger and Matt Morgan? That's what I think, everybody.
Really interesting. So all right. So now we have our so more or less these are our five guys. We've got Kurt Angle, we've got Magnus, Samoa Joe, we have Matt Morgan, and obviously the leader of the main event Mafia. In our opinion, would be Sting. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, this is solely our opinion. We want to know who you guys think will be the five, well, now we know two of them, the other three members of the main event Mafia. Now, Andre, there's a possibility it could be more than five guys.
Well, if there is, let's hope Chris Masters is one of those guys. I really want to see him in TNA. I really do. And a lot of people overlook him when it comes to the free agent market right now.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, listen. This has been an interesting topic. Again, no script. We're just me and Andre just talking wrestling. We want to know what you guys think. Ladies and gentlemen, you can follow us here every single week at OneWrestling.com, YouTube /OneWrestlingVideo. You can follow me on Twitter at Big Ray Show. Follow us here at OneWrestling.com. Andre, I'm going to be away for a couple of weeks, and I'm not going to do any TNA recaps. Well, maybe I will, but how can we get our TNA recap fixed? How can we follow you, buddy?
Andre CORBEIL on YouTube here. Visit me, guys. Get on board the channel. Looking for passionate, knowledgeable wrestling fans 24/7. I appreciate each and everybody that's on board the channel. So yeah, that's YouTube. If you're on Facebook a lot, hit us up at Wrestling News Talk, the Facebook fan page, and click that like button. We have a lot of wrestling product, all sorts of different ROH, Chikara, TNA, OVW, WWE, wrestling product for everybody. So visit us on the Wrestling News Talk fan page. If you're on Twitter, send me a Twitter message, a tweet at Andre_CORBEIL. And yeah, that's my social media, everybody. So I welcome passionate, knowledgeable wrestling fans aboard my social media networks. And anybody that's a friend of Big Ray, you're a friend of mine.
That's right, brother. And like Andre CORBEIL says, clickety click click, hit that like button. Please subscribe, ladies and gentlemen. Subscribe to my good friend Andre CORBEIL from Canada, Big Ray from New York City, ladies and gentlemen.
The Can-Am Connection.
The Can-Am Connection. I say this all the time. I would do this for a living. I would do this for a living. But if I couldn't, I would do it anyway. Why?
Because I love talking wrestling.
Oh, thank you, buddy. I appreciate that.
I'm stealing your gig, buddy.
Stealing my gig. Andre, I will see you next time. I will see you guys in a couple of weeks. This has been an interesting topic. By the time I get back, Battle for Glory series should be well on the way. Like I said, guys, you can get your TNA recap fix with my buddy Andre CORBEIL. And maybe I'll throw a quick little video of poolside when I'm at Florida on my vacation.
Paradise, huh? You lucky bugger. You lucky bugger.
Andre, I'll talk to you real soon, buddy.
Peace, everybody. Thanks for the support, everybody.
Peace.